instructions on how we were to behave. This is a very serious situation. No laughing, no telling jokes, no conversations among each other. This is very serious. And you are to line up a male, a female, because we knew they weren't going to put just one person in a police car. And that way you'd always have a male present in case something might happen. And so that was a little comforting to know that there would be a man with you. When I was arrested at the state capitol, when we went out to get in the police car, I was asked, they were male or female, we were getting in. Police weren't thinking about that. But when they moved to the next in line, when I got into the police car, someone was coming behind me. I knew it was going to be a male, and it was Otis Moss Jr. Otis Moss and I were in the same police car together. How do you feel fear when you're riding with Otis Moss? You really don't. You really don't. It was very nice. As we were riding around, they were trying to figure out what they were going to do with us. It was the days before the cell phone. They were listening to each other and talking to each other on walkie-talkies. The two police officers in the front were chatting. Suddenly, Otis reached in his pocket, pulled out a Bible, and started reading the 23rd Psalm, and they stopped talking. So they treated us with a great deal of respect. When we were arrested, we were in one holding cell, cheering as different groups came in, probably more than one, but in the holding cell that was occupied by maybe 30, 40 people during the day that I was a part of. We were cheering as another group arrived because it was a victory for us. And of course, I think the police quickly realized that if violence had occurred, that would have escalated our cause and would have demonstrated the negative side of them. And of course, we were lucky that we had a Mayor Hartsfield. He was determined to show that the city of Atlanta had a great image and treated people well, and so he didn't want any violence, and that was on our side. So that was a reason for fear, but it was comforting to know that there were numbers of people around and participating with you. Maybe I would have been more fearful if I had been alone. I don't know.
What about the attorneys, Donald Hollowell and those that supported him? Did you have a chance to interact with them, and what do you remember about them getting you out of jail?
Well, we were there in jail all day, and businessmen and ladies came with the attorneys at the end of the day to bail us out, to get us out. Of course, they fingerprinted us and all of that. I had no personal, private interaction with the attorneys, but I sat in meetings when we talked with Mayor Hartsfield and other city officials, and the lawyers would be there. We were very proud of the way they looked, of the way they spoke, and feeling very assured that we were in good hands. We had done a good job of mobilizing the community, and so we had a great deal of support from the business community and from the legal aspect of the business community.
Talk to me about Rush Memorial and some of the other places that you had meetings. What were they about and how were they conducted?
We had meetings, of course, and churches opened the doors for us to meet. We would meet there, and then at Providence, we had places where we prepared food, because when people were picketing, people would bring, so we need places to hold things, like picket signs, food, things like that. And people in the community would bring food to those churches. It would stay there, and people could either come there and eat, or we'd take food to the picket lines. We'd use somebody's car. And so the ministers were very, very supportive, and we needed places where we could congregate in the evening to plan, to talk, to discuss what happened, to evaluate the activities of the day, and to plan for the next day. And then people need to know where to find us. If somebody just decided, I want to volunteer to picket, where do you go? Those were like headquarters for us. Very, very important that we had them, because we were not using school facilities for that purpose. And that was a saving grace for us, because we couldn't have been as well organized as we were if we hadn't had a place to meet.
What about the food? I mean, now that you bring it up, food costs money.
Absolutely.
Who was paying for this?
The people who prepared the food, people just bought food, cooked it, and brought it to us. Trays of food. People would say, "I got some food cooked for you. Can you come and get it?" We'd get a car and we'd go get the food. We'd bring it over and people would eat. And it's interesting. I have no idea what we ate. But it was good. It was good. Prepared in different communities, and some white people would prepare food and bring it to us. People were very, very nice. So there were a lot of people that probably have stories to tell too about the role they played behind the scenes, letting us use their cars. I didn't own a car. Now, most of the time I drove Martin Luther King Jr.'s car because I was also working part-time helping with the children, and they knew what we were doing. We'd borrow cars, we'd borrow everybody's cars. And people were very nice. They trusted us, and that was no problem. Because we had to take people from the AU Center to picket sites, then pick up people from the picket sites, bring them back to the AU Center to go to class. So we had a shuttle system going at all times. Very well organized. If there's anything I'm proud of, it's the fact that though we were young in age, we were very intelligent about the need to work together in a unified fashion and be organized about what we were planning to do. We always had a plan for what was going on the next day.
Talk to me about Julian Bond. When did you meet him? How did you interact with him? What's your strongest memory of him?
I met Julian when we were students in AU Center, and of course then he married a friend of mine from high school, his first wife, and Julian was always around talking, as we all were. I can't pinpoint any particular day that I did or did not meet him. He was always there, very calm and very assured about what we were doing. I had to laugh because we always worried about what the newspaper printed. Were they really telling the truth? And so the Atlanta Inquirer was born. And I was from a family that didn't have a lot of money, so I was always babysitting and doing odd jobs. And I decided I would get a job with the Atlanta Inquirer when it opened to deliver the papers. And my paper route was the Atlanta University Center. I knocked on the door of every dormitory, went to the desk in the dormitories for men, and they would do an all-call. The lady is here to sell the papers, come down. Well, Julian was like the dispatcher at the Inquirer. So when I first went for the job, I said, I had been before. He wasn't there the first day I arrived. When I arrived to get the papers, he knew that he was to give papers to the paper boy. He says, "Well, you're not a boy." So we laughed about it. I said, "No, but I'm still doing the papers. I'm the paper lady." So we laughed about that all the time. He would say, "Here comes the paper lady." So we had a lot of fun together. Julian was a very nice individual. I eventually knew his mother. His sister I knew very well as I worked at Spelman. And Julian's mother took a swimming class from me. I taught swimming at Spelman. And of course, she lived close to the campus, and she took a swimming class from me. So I knew Julian pretty well in a friendly way. We never worked together professionally except with the student movement, but I was in close contact with him.
What's the one thing that people need to know about this movement that they probably don't know?
I don't know if it's something they don't know, but one of the things I'm most proud of is it shows you what you can do if you stick together. That you can do something with a large number of people that you maybe can't do alone. And the feeling of unity, when I was walking toward the meeting site that morning, that I felt when I looked back and saw the people coming behind me, knowing that that was what we needed. You see, we had been told we were going to be put out of school. We wouldn't be able to attend classes if we, because the presidents heard about it. Well, that was their job. Their job was not to say, "Okay, all you students, go and sit in and go to jail." Their job involved educating young people in an academic environment. So they really couldn't tell us to go. So they told us, you know, this might be perilous academically. Your grades are going to suffer. You will not be excused for this activity. But you couldn't have found a more prouder group of people. After we were involved in the Senate, they were our biggest cheerleaders. You know, we had to say, okay, if that's what you're going to do, then you're going to have to put everybody out of this school because we're going to try to get everybody on this campus to go. And we especially targeted the very brilliant, bright people because we figured maybe they won't put them out. They might put people out who don't make good grades. So I know that was my motivating factor for asking certain people. I said, now I'm going to get that person because they probably won't put her out. Like Marion Wright Edelman, people like that. We get all of these people to go. And of course, if you put all the students out, you won't have a school. So our thought was great. Get as many people as possible. They say they won't excuse you, but they'll have to because they can't run a school without students. But that feeling of unity that I wish young people would understand, that it's important to stick together for a cause, that if you mobilize people, you can move mountains with your idea, that it's important to be unified. And that was one of the greatest feelings because I had been riding the bus as a poor high school student, poor financially, my mother would say, you're not poor, Gwen, you know, you have a lot of things, and it's true. You know, you have good health, and you know, you can think. Those are things that you're not poor. You have a lot of riches. But riding that bus every day, not being able to sit down and not liking it and trying to figure out what I was going to do about it, what we were going to do about it. See, we had been planning for a long time. That's why it was very timely. As I rode the bus from Carver Homes, standing up, there were some apartments above Carver Homes called the Village Apartments. White people lived in those apartments. Negro colored people lived in Carver Homes, but the end of the bus line was at the Village Apartments. So when the bus came down the hill to us, all of the seats were already, each seat was already occupied by someone white. And at first I thought, they're just being mean. They don't want us to sit in. We could sit down. We could sit at the back of the bus, but they are lined up on the back seat. So as young people, we started talking about it on weekends. And we decided we can't sit next to them, but there's no law that says we can't put our books next to them. So one day at church, after church, we talked to Reverend King Sr. about it. He said, be very careful about that. He says, make sure you don't touch them. Make sure you don't touch them. Make sure you're polite. And we chatted about it maybe for about a month. And one day the boys would let the girls get on the bus first, so we were always near the back. So I was in the back of the bus and somebody bumped me and handed me some books. And I knew what to do with them. I put them in the seat next in front of me. And as the books would come in, we'd put them, and when the power would get very high, we'd hold the stack down. And the bus, of course, would be driving. We drove straight up Pryor Road from those apartments toward the downtown Atlanta. We'd hold the books, all of our books. You know, we didn't have book bags. We'd be carrying books in our arms. And finally, the person would get up and say, excuse me, they'd move by and say, thank you very much. And then we could take that seat. We did that all of that week. And I'm telling you, that Monday morning, when the bus pulled up and we got on, all those white people were seated double toward the front of the bus. That was the greatest feeling in the world. And we sat down, and of course, as older Negroes got on the bus, women, we'd get up and give them our seats. That was the greatest feeling in the world, that we effected a change peacefully. And we never opened our mouths except to say thank you very much when they would get up and move to the front. And it's those things that I remember, you know, when people feel hopeless. This is a hopeless situation. What can I do? There are a lot of things you can do. If you present your problem and get people to mobilize and work together, That's what you can do. As a family, you can work together. I learned about unity, the effect of working with others towards something meaningful. I learned that very early from that situation. And we didn't brag about it, we didn't talk about it, we never laughed. But that feeling, my heart almost burst when I stepped on that bus and all those people were seated double to the front. It's really,
That's an exhilarating story. And there were a lot of individuals that had those stories where they'd had their little personal triumphs.
right.
So by the time you guys came together,
It was time, and my mother knew about that situation. Reverend King knew about that situation. We were just itching and anxious to do something. And all of a sudden, I was in high school at that time. I'm a college student, and meet Lonnie, and he talks about what they're going to do. I said, yes. I had an experience when I started dating. A nice young man came to take me out to the movies and took me to the Fox Theater. I had never seen the Fox Theater. I didn't walk in that part of town. And we went up the back steps on the side. I thought that was the way. It was dark when we went in the theater. We sat in the balcony. I assumed that's where he wanted to take me. It appeared to be nice. When I got home that night, my daddy asked me where I had gone, what movie I had seen. I told him, he says, that's not paying at the Ashby. That's not. What movie did you go to? I said, he screamed and yelled, you went to a segregated theater. You went in the back door. And we had a rule, you don't go in. I said, what are you talking about? He said, that's the back door of the Fox Theater. Well, I felt really bad about it. The guy was trying to be really nice. He was so upset. My mama told him, stop fussing at me about it and all of that. But though we lived in Carver Homes, we had a lot of pride in what we did. We were taught to be very proud of who you are and where you go. You are not a second-class citizen. I don't care how much people try to make you feel that way. And if it's a place of business and you have to go to the back door to get food, or you have to go to the back door to enter, you don't go. And that was the rule. And so, of course, I never went there again. But when I was a student at Spelman, we had a teacher from India, and she taught us for 2 years in the physical education department and announced that she was leaving to take a job somewhere else. And there were 8 of us in her class, and we wanted to do something special for her before she left. So we told her, we want to do something special for you. What would you like to do? And she said, well, let's go out to dinner and go to a movie. And we thought it'd be great. And she said, well, let's go to the Fox Theater. And we knew we were not going